It's two conscious guys talking, where conscious male leaders come together and have a discussion that is deep, that is nourishing, that allows us to see the illumination of consciousness that's unfolding progressively for men that are waking up in the world, and where you can get insights on your own awakening as a man, and also for amazing women that want to learn more about men's challenges and struggles that have created some of the dysfunction we've seen within men in its society, often called, quote unquote, the patriarchy and other terms. What created it? What is the genesis of it all? What can we do about it today to empower men to be all that they're meant to be and to support the awakening of consciousness for men and women and all? Scott, oh, how are you, man? It's just so grateful to have you on the show today.
Oh, thank you, Daniel. I'm alive. I feel a mixture of passion and nervousness and desire to express and serve. It's all in there.
Wow. That is so interesting. I'm glad you said, yeah, there's nervousness because as guys, I'd be like, I'm never scared of anything. I never feel any fear. Like, so I'm grateful you share that. And especially some like yourself that you've been on a lot of stages, you've been in comedy and you've done all kinds of things to show up and share. But yeah, you saying, I'm kind of nervous, and I always tell people, that are like my students for like what I do. Like I do teach people to tap into intuitive psychic gifts and then share that with people and to read their energies and stuff. That's nerve wracking to people, right?
Yeah.
What if I get it wrong? What if they think I'm totally off and so, but I tell them like, no matter how many people I've done this with now, thousands and thousands and thousands, doesn't matter. They're it's a lot less these days, but there's still some level of, oh my God, how's it going to go? Oh my God, is anything I'm saying resonating, right? So it
Uh,
never completely goes away. In my experience, I know some people say, oh yeah, I don't feel any fear. I don't believe them, quite frankly,
I don't
but
believe him either.
yeah, yeah.
Laurence Olivier, the famous stage actor, was asked, "Do you still get jitters before a performance?" And he said, "My friend, if I didn't get nervous, I wouldn't know what to do with myself. I wouldn't even walk on the stage." So he's using his fear, anxiety, nervousness as life force energy to propel him into self-expression and creativity. When you welcome that energy, it becomes your ally.
Mhm. Totally. And so when I get extra nervous, I always know like something great's gonna happen through
I
that
love
meeting.
it.
Like in a meeting, so I'm like, this is gonna be really good. Well, I'm scared to death.
The word terrific and terror all start with the same
Right?
and yeah, I like to say that anxiety is excitement,
This.
just add oxygen.
I haven't heard it that way before. Yes, that's some oxygen. I love it. I
I'm
love
here
it.
with you. I want to own that the reason that I feel nervous uh, is because, I have been a comedian. I've worked with Robin Williams. I've done,
Mhm.
30, 40 years of global traveling with my music. And it's kind of like a shtick. I could do it with my eyes closed.
Yeah.
But talking about this book and masculinity is my edge.
Mm.
When I'm on my edge, fear is a part of the process.
Hmm.
I welcome it. It tells me that I'm alive, that I'm on my edge, that I'm not hanging out in my comfort zone.
That's a good point because sometimes I'm like with what I'm doing right now in my work again. I'm not here to plug it, but it's just like part of the conversation with my energy scan trainings. Like I had let them go, I did a lot with that sort of thing like years ago. Then I didn't do too much the last number of years, doing some other things, and now I'm back into it. I always knew I'd come back and be I'd go bigger than ever, with reaching more people. and that's the trajectory I feel it's on energetically. And so I'm filled with, yeah, probably fear, but also lots of excitement. But I also feel like, man, it's, there's a lot of energy going on here. And could it be too much? And like
Yeah, yeah.
like almost like it could be too much. This is too much. It could be too much energy, and that could become like something where I could see people being like, maybe I'm gonna burn out. Maybe this, maybe that. What if I get too stressed out? What if and that's where people sometimes blunt, I think, their expression or showing up more for what they're here
Yeah.
for. And so I love that you share, like, yeah, that you've learned, like the way I heard you say that is, you're still learning, we all are, but you're learning to really just ride the edge, ride the wave, or whatever you want to call it. Yeah,
Yeah.
try to maintain some equilibrium, I want to say, right? Within that, right? Is that
Me,
accurate? Or
I walk with faith in one hand and fear in the other, and I put my hands together and I let them be friends. I let them be traveling companions. I don't
mm,
try to deny my human side and just be the spiritual whatever.
hmm, right.
That's
Oh,
kind
that's
of like a
nice.
form of spiritual macho. I
Huh.
think
Spiritual
I
macho.
never said that before. That's a new one.
Oh, cool. Yeah. Wow. Spiritual macho is to the new spiritual macho. Faith and fear come together, right? That's great. Like, 'cause that's a thing with guys, right? Is forever. I mean, let's take it this way today. Then, you talk about mindful masculinity, and you got a book and everything for that. You're sharing with the world and more. But what one of the things is, like, I said, yeah, I'm going to ask questions like this and that probably along the way, and you said, oh, those are, but everybody's heard those ones before, the answers. But because they're so common, right? Like that men have, can't be vulnerable, men don't cry, and all this. And
Mhm.
many of the guys that have come on have been, because we tend to be more sensitive type of people. And when you're more sensitive, I think those that are as sensitive sense that and come after you as a kid, right? You know, push you around, you get bullied or whatever. Like I definitely ran into some of that. You mentioned pre talk, that there was a little bit of that going on for you, name calling maybe or whatnot. But
Yeah.
so it's like it's interesting because there isn't some adaptive function in that. I think it's just everything's about the level or something, the frequency. It's like guys keeping guys on point, can serve a purpose, right? Like, come on, Scott, man up. Like, if I say it like that, it may not resonate, but like if there's a way I conveying that could be
I think,
beneficial, but if taken to in a certain octave or a certain way, it
yeah,
becomes something else, right?
yeah, yeah. When there's shaming included in
Yes.
that it's
Right.
coaching. It's like, hey, find your courage.
Yes,
And
yes,
in
yes.
the book, we talk about encouragement and
Mm,
discouragement
mhm,
and what self-talk creates courage, inspires courage, and what self-talk takes us in a downward spiral. And one of the principles in the book is that masculinity grows stronger when exercising courage. And it
mm,
doesn't have to be out in the battlefield or joining a gang. It can be the courage to look at our shadows, face our fears, take action through our fears, commit in relationships that terrify us. There's all kinds of ways of doing the battle and exercising courage to strengthen that masculine side. Doesn't have to be at the gym, can be at the gym within.
there we go. This is another good one. The gym within. I love that. I love that. Yeah, that's so true. I mean, there's that whole aspect of it. Like when I open up to people, whether it's in my business or my personal life or whatever it is, I'm like, hey, I'm feeling this way. Like, um, I'm feeling I'm concerned, or I'm feeling afraid, or I'm feeling this, or whatever whatever it is that I feel that I want to share, or especially with clients, if I too, and I know if I share vulnerably, like, hey, I'm dealing with some of these challenges too that you're dealing with right now, but this is how I'm dealing with it. Like to be in the moment, whereas the old model is like when we're teachers like this, we're like, well, son, let me tell you, like, that's kind of a bit of an old style. There's a lot of that, historically, and still plenty of that are probably more like that still,
Or
but it's starting to be less. There seems to be more authentic sharing. At the same time, there's this idea like, give it at least 10 days or whatever, like give it X amount of time, then share your story from the mountain and all this stuff. And I think there's some wisdom in that, but um, or don't talk about the things you're going through right now. Don't do that, because then you're in your stuff or whatever, and that's not the way to lead. And I think you can do, potentially, definitely share what's going on for you if it's done in an appropriate way, in a good way, in a way that you are leading, right? So,
I believe that,
yeah.
I look at my intention. So
Mhm.
I'm about to share something, I'm leading a group. Is my intention to just receive therapy, or is it to serve the group by modeling being vulnerable and create more safety?
Mhm.
And if it's that, then yeah, I'll share.
Right. Right. Totally.
There
Totally. I
is,
mean,
I believe there's a different way of men being vulnerable than women. I,
mhm.
I I haven't put my finger on it yet, but as I
Mhm.
sit with you, Daniel, some words are coming. May I share them?
Sure. Yeah.
So, is it Brene Brown or Brene Brown?
Yeah. I think you got it right. Yeah. The
Uh,
second one time. Yeah.
she has she's researched vulnerability, and she's like the queen, but her audience is made up of much more women than men. And I think it's because men need to access their vulnerability a little different than women. They don't need to tell the story around their feelings. They there's a more masculine approach to masculinity and to vulnerability, and it's being direct, checking in with your body. So my stomach feels tense right now. I notice my breath short. I'm really afraid to go into my vulnerability. And I'm afraid of being shamed, criticized. Who knows? It's just scary. And that in and of itself, of course, is vulnerability. What I think is the more masculine approach is being embodied, checking in with your body and reporting first what's going on in your body. And number two, it's staying as close as possible to the present moment experience you're having rather than the story that led up to these feelings.
Mhm.
That's
Mhm.
that's a manly way of being vulnerable.
Yeah, gonna be a real man. So, how do you feel right now? For real.
Yeah. And part of that is learning more feeling words.
hmm
And this is true for men and women. We live in a culture that confuses thoughts with feelings.
hmm
So
hmm
whenever you start a sentence with I feel like or I feel as, you're about to share a thought, an interpretation, maybe a
Right.
judgment.
hmm
Uh, and there are words like I feel judged. It's not a
hmm
feeling, it's what you think the other person is doing.
hmm
And so we need to learn to drop into our bodies. There's a whole emotional vocabulary of feeling words that are inarguable. See, when you say, I feel judged, the person could say, I'm not judging you. But when you say, I feel really tense and scared and I want to protect myself, that's inarguable. Has nothing to do with your interpretation of what you think the other person's doing to you.
Right.
That's power. That's emotional intelligence and emotional power.
Yeah, that's great. I mean, yeah, totally. As a, you know, I have a therapist background, so I'm kind of familiar with that type of deal, but it's a great reminder for me too. Just that the power of that, to really just share. And then I have to look at my life. I'm like, but do you actually do it? You know that, but do you do it? Who knows? I don't know. I'll pay attention though to it more now. Like, okay, am I doing that?
Right.
Or do I say, I feel like you're doing this or that? Like, I'm not talking about my,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Like you're in a conversation, so you're not talking about you. I feel like you're incorrect. I'm sharing my feelings.
Ah! Yeah. I
So
take
rather than say,
responsibility for feeling like you're an asshole.
that's funny. And I'm feeling like, right? Oh my God. But I could say, but if that were true, because I tend to feel that way sometimes because I can always see the other side of things. So I'm like, I could say something like, I'm feeling, well, it would be an improvement anyway. I would say that I'm feeling, I perhaps could have a different perspective on that. That would be kinder, nicer, whatever. Um, I could also say, if I access really what I'm feeling, it'd be like, I'm feeling like it's like I just want everyone I feel like I want to be loved. I want everybody, I just want to feel love. I want to feel love. And I feel like it's dishonoring love to say these horrible things about people you don't even know. Like,
My
and I'm not
goodness.
judging you. I'm just saying that's how I'm feeling right now. So
It's
I
tragic
I
to
tried. I'm getting closer, right? But like I'm trying to just say how I'm feeling. Like I'm because it's like it's hard to say sometimes, right? Somebody says, "I want them. I hate these people, and I want them all dead," or whatever it is, or whatever. I mean, like,
could it be anger?
yeah, it could be. But the person that's listening to that person with that anger, it's like I'm feeling. I may not even know if I'm what I'm feeling. So what do you say to a guy? Because many guys feel that. And
Yeah.
I'm
I
on
don't
that
know.
the more advanced spectrum of being able to access feelings, and yet I'm finding like there could be scenarios where I might not know what I'm feeling. So
Sure.
how do you coach
I
people with
become
that?
a specialist in helping men find their feelings.
Cool.
So when a man says, I don't know what I'm feeling, I'm numb. Well,
Yeah.
first of all, numb is a feeling.
Sure. Sure.
Questions like, so where do you feel that in your body? But more important, how do you feel about not feeling anything right now? Pissed off, frustrated? Are you judging yourself?
Mm-hmm.
And that's a feeling, I'm frustrated. I can't find my feelings. Well, that's a feeling, dude. You're on the
Mm-hmm.
right track.
Mm-hmm.
And as you make room and honor that frustration, you start the journey, and you may find that there's some grief as you realize that your culture, your parents kind of took away your ability to feel, your natural ability to feel. And then, maybe anger is in there as well. So acknowledging the frustration of not being able to name or feel something,
Mm-hmm.
it starts the journey.
Yeah, it's great. I was just, looking at this more deeply as you're talking too, like scenarios where people are saying things that I'm like, oh God, yeah, kind of feeling like, oh God. And I could say I'm feeling a lot of tension as you're sharing this with me, feeling a lot of tension. Um, or I'm feeling sad, or I'm feeling angry, like you said, like I'm kind of feeling angry or frustrated, or I feel whatever, to try to put a voice to it, to the feeling that
Absolutely.
you're having.
I
And
love, so that's just, it is so powerful because you're not, like you said, I love that the idea, like it's not perceived as attack because there is no attack. It's just, it can't even be interpreted that way because you're just saying how you're feeling, period, without adding something in. I'm feeling angry because you're saying some crap I don't agree with.
yeah,
Yeah.
how about I'm feeling frustrated and then add a want or a need? Because I would
Mm-hmm.
like to feel more connection between us right now, and I'm not feeling it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Right.
So that's a step, is connecting feelings with what you want in a positive way.
Mm-hmm.
And if your intention is to create connection rather than correction, rather than correcting the other person,
Right.
that intention is going to be felt. The trick
Mm-hmm.
with many of us men who have been programmed to want to be right
Mm-hmm.
is to find that genuine affection for connection more than correction, more than, hey, no, my opinion is more valid. How can I connect with this other person and let them know that that's my intention? My most valued treasure is to create connection. And so I'm angry or frustrated because I don't feel it and I want to feel it. How can we work together?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mm. It's really powerful. It's just like something I like to just take in, I'm like, okay. I'm like, yeah, that's nice. Um, and then I wonder, like when guys often, growing up, especially as teenagers or whatever, as younger kids, uh yeah, there would be all that stuff. Especially in my, you're probably a little older than me, but I'm older than most people think I am. But anyway, but there'd always be like, you're gay or you're this or you're that, like that was a whole thing. Like in our time growing up, like you say people would say things like that to each other. Guys would say that to each other, things like this,
Mm.
and you wonder, I mean, right? Like, or is it just that they're not in contact with their own feelings, so they're just like, you know what I mean? Like what I because
Well,
that's what I'm always curious to learn more
first of
about.
all,
Yeah.
people who do that have been judged and shamed
Hmm.
as children. And so what they're trying to do is feel some power
Hmm.
and have a break, take a break from their own shame
Hmm.
by projecting it out onto somebody else.
Hmm. Hmm. Hmm.
And I mean, there's more to it than that, but
Sure.
they have to have experienced it to want to give it, to want to dish it out.
Yeah, that's a good point, right? Yeah, because I think about, yeah, those scenarios where I was the perpetrator or whatever, I know I've done some of that in my life, so and then, it coming my way. Yeah, I always just assumed as I've gotten older, I don't know if I thought about it as a kid or not, but like, yeah, they probably had some horrible situation they were dealing with, is why they're coming by me being like, come on, I'll kick your butt or whatever and all that stuff. I'm like, why? For no reason. Like, it's like there's something going on inside of you, and
Yeah.
that's causing you to want to, try to bring it out towards me right now. Hmm. It's very interesting. Hmm. Hmm.
So
Yeah.
Daniel, I've been at this for 40 years of teaching and leading workshops. And um, there's something about this men's work that lights me up like I've never been lit before.
Hmm. Hmm.
There is a component to it that I think you'll enjoy hearing about. In the book, I talk about how men and a lot of women have been cut off from the right side of their brains, the intuitive,
Hmm.
what the culture calls the feminine, but it's really just like a whole side of ourselves
Mm-hmm.
that we've been disowning.
Mm-hmm.
It's all about logic and reason, and this phenomenal, incredibly intelligent right side of the brain is not being used by most men and
Mm-hmm.
very many women. And so the book has some practical steps on how to drop that logic, overthinking 24/7 rational part of your brain and activate and energize and empower and trust the left side,
Mm-hmm.
excuse me, the right side,
Right
and have
side, no,
them
I
work together
know.
as dance partners, because that's what they're meant to be. The feminine and masculine parts of ourselves are meant to be harmonious, working dance partners.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I don't, I started the doing this type of doing interviews, and basically that's been a lot of the foray into helping men that I've done is by sharing interviews. And sure, certainly I work with male clients and it comes up there too. Um, I have a client that just signed up to work with me who very, again, extremely powerful, successful in the world, right? Um, but part of that success has been informed by a lot of just trauma. I'm gonna make this happen no matter what, kind of, it's sort of, type of thing. You can't stop me, and I'm in control now, and like all that stuff. And it's hard to let go of because now you've sensed like, well, who I am and my success and my worthiness is based on what I've built here in this business. Um, and you're going to tell me I need to, now this person's looking for help, but like, now you're going to tell me, how can I change that when that's what I know? That's how I know how to feel good about myself, right?
People
Um,
who have been so successful in the world sometimes have a harder time getting committed to the inner journey than
mhm,
people who have screwed up and have low self-esteem.
mhm.
There's something about that success thing that is such a trap. It's such a hamster wheel.
Yeah,
And very often men have to fail in
mhm.
order to be humble enough to ask for help
Right,
and look within rather than to the world. The world has what glitters, but inside is what is gold.
right. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's when, yeah, you're right. That's when these guys usually are ready to, like other people, when you're in pain, you finally reach out, right? So when you really hit like rock bottom or really hit that pain, some a relationship breaks down, your health breaks down, whatever it is, and then you're like, oh, there's something I'm not listening to in my life, right? So I laugh about it with all of you, knowing I've done it myself along the way, for sure. So, wow, there's something I didn't pay attention to here. And so I would love to hear, now this is where I do enjoy hearing my guests' journeys. Like, so,
I'm
so
so
yeah,
glad
tell
you
me
said
about
that.
your
I have a
journey with,
story. I have a
yeah,
story in me.
let's hear it. Yeah.
I This is the story of how I came to publish my fourth book or have it published.
Hmm.
It started with failing because I had 30 solid years of my music and workshops and speaking gigs supporting me. And the first thing that came along that put a dent in it was music streaming. Music streaming, my CD sales were about 60% of my income. And so it's very, very quickly that income went away. Then there was the great financial meltdown, and people began to only do things that were survival stuff. And that affected my income. And then COVID came along, and it was like 3 strikes, I'm out. I need to get a freaking job. For the first time in my life, I had to get a menial job. I actually got 2 jobs, part-time jobs,
Mm-hmm.
working at a supermarket called Sprouts,
Uh-huh.
where I cleaned toilets. I was a keynote speaker at conferences. Now I was cleaning toilets, helping people pack their groceries. It was so demeaning. And I had to recognize that my ego had been in charge of my self-image. And that's why I was finding it demeaning to serve people in a different way.
Mm-hmm.
Rather than being hot rock star special, I was serving people in a humble way. It was really beautiful to recognize that this so-called failure was serving me.
Mm-hmm.
And then there was the other job, which is data entry and customer support for a Bay Area tech company called Man Cave America. And
Mm.
I hate computers and sitting and but I needed the money. So I was offered the job and I did it.
Yeah.
And in the course of about a year, the boss, Henry, began to discover that I had been an author. He actually picked up one of my previous books and he said, Scott, I want you to write some essays about masculinity.
Mm-hmm.
Subject dear to my heart, partly why I started the company. And I would like to hear your perspective on things like discipline. And he just made a list of like 10 different ideas.
Mm-hmm.
And and then he started to use me as a life coach, checking in with me every day, helping helping him be accountable to his goals. And then he had a few crises that just were intense, and he just would lean on me. So I wasn't doing data entry anymore. I was writing a book and being a life coach for him and for others in the company that needed help.
Mm.
So I came down on my knees, in a sense,
Mm-hmm.
learn about humility and the way life twisted and turned. I am now being used for my gifts, my talents, what I'm good at, by a company I would never have expected it, couldn't have planned it. And they
Right.
published the book.
Wow.
I didn't have to spend a dime. It was published by Man Cave America Press. AI generated photo. I was paid
They're
by
good.
the
They're good. The AI photos are pretty cool. I use them on social media often. They're like, oh, this is cooler than these other photos. So yeah, it could be a good thing, you know. But wow, that's powerful. I mean, yeah, it just goes to show. I mean, I've had my own, sort of road with what you're talking about in a way. Um, I struggle a lot to get going in this industry, whatever, the healing coaching industry, whatever you want to call it. And then I hit some success, and then I built the company up. And then in 2017, it wasn't anything that seemed wrong that was going on, but I just kind of got like, hey, time to quit doing this for right now, from my intuition. I'm like, oh, okay. So I got into, actually, my next thing, I thought I was going to help guys, and I am doing some of this, but I thought that would be it, but like that just wasn't completely gelling either. But it was a piece I needed to visit. It was a
night.
piece I needed to visit on my
Yeah,
journey, right? But it seemed like, during this time period between 2017 and 2024, although there was some positive, good things happening for sure, sometimes I thought like you're crazy. Like everybody, people would say you're totally nuts. Why did you walk away from something that was working to go to something that, on a business level, at this moment, doesn't seem to be working as well, and it's like, oh wow, so you feel like, yeah, you can feel like a failure for sure, like, I don't know if I would use the word, but failure, but like something like that. Like I'm failing my family. I'm failing. So I'm not measuring up.
Uh,
Why is it that way? And my wisdom tells me, well, it's a process. I understood all that, but it's like, still, it's really insanely challenging, because you don't know, like, well, is this how it goes for the rest of my life, like, like that kind of vibe. And I wonder if you had some did you I'm just curious, on having this conversation, did you have a feeling like that? Did you have a feeling like, man, I might be stuck here, I may never get back, I might, did you get those
yeah.
feelings?
Fear is a story in the head projecting it, the doubt and the scarcity or whatever into the
Hmm.
future.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
like a collection of what if this never changes? What if this never
Mhm.
improves? That is something I've graduated from with a degree. I've mastered it. I know how to pump up the worry and adrenaline and drama
Hmm.
of worrying about these things. So yeah, I've had lots of experience, Daniel.
Yeah, yeah,
But I've also
yeah.
had lots of experience. Things work out. Things
Right,
never stay the same.
right. I was just telling a friend of mine that we meet every week or so. Not a guy, but she's dealing with some challenges, and I'm like, look, I mean, things can change fast. I give her a bunch of examples, mostly from my own life, but in some family members and stuff. I says, look, I've got another story for you. This family member, that family member, it seems so bad, and then all things turn around, um, and so that was so helpful. That's why I love these type of shows. Like,
Mhm.
it's easy to forget, get caught up in what you're dealing with, and just to remind people, yeah, you might think it's hopeless. Like, no, but for me, it is hopeless. Well, Scott's felt that way, at times. I felt that way at times, and maybe we're even convinced at moments, right? And at certain times, and it's like, no, it's like, there's something greater that wants to unfold if you're in that challenge right now, and to realize that, because as guys, I talk about it especially too, on the show, because we all know, like, we're more prone to have mental health issues, in my opinion. We're more that'll be undiagnosed sometimes, but we do. We're more likely to go to substance abuse and abuse different things. More likely to commit suicide. All these different things, and it just shut down. Just shut down your life. And I just want to encourage people, like, yeah, is one of the words I like to use a lot right now, but like, you can get your mojo back, and more, and then some, like, and if you never feel like you've had your mojo, you can get it going. I don't care what age you are. It's possible. I've seen it, it can happen for you.
Indeed. 3 years ago, I was taking antidepressants. I was addicted to benzodiazepines. I was able, with the help of a lot of help,
Yeah.
to turn that around. It was a dark night of the soul, and I've had many.
Hmm. Right.
Great times for learning, lousy times for fun.
Hmm. Right. Right. Yeah. I mean, I have people, women. Yeah, I remember one of my friends. She's like, I lived for like 6 years in the dark night of the soul. Every day it felt like, so it can be that intense sometimes. It can seem like it's, you kidding me? It's every day, and it's forever, and yeah, it can feel that intense. But I always believe, if you can ride that wave, get some support too. I think support is always critical, is to do whatever you can to get support anyway, and wherever you can get it. And if you get that support, if you ride that wave, so to speak, that time in your life, samsara they call it, right? And what the Buddhists or whatever, I don't know where it comes from, but you ride that wave, man, there could be massive, huge blessings and great bliss and love and laughter and fun on the other side. I mean, things that you just have no clue about right now. So yeah.
Indeed. Indeed. And for men, well, there's a chapter in the book called Too Cool for School.
Mm-hmm.
There is a part of the male ego that really, more so than most women, wants to appear like we know it all already. And therefore, I don't need support. There's this macho John Wayne, the Lone Ranger. You know, a lot of our images of masculinity have been of men going at it alone.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And that's just outdated software that needs to be replaced.
Right. 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 Yeah. Sure. There's a reason in there too. I'm always curious. So why did men develop that idea? Maybe the idea of that, because the idea of support has always been seen by men, yeah, a lot, but some women too. Like that's a weakness. If you need to go for support, a therapist or get help from somebody, it means you weren't able to do it on your own. Now you're a burden to other people, or now you're just paying a stupid therapist because you can't figure your shit out. Like this literally goes. I mean, honestly, like as a therapist, I can say like there are literally, as that literally happens. People have these kind of thoughts. It's
Yes.
interesting how that's developed. I don't know if
They
you have any
drag
thoughts
their
about that.
they drag their sorry ass selves with self-pity and self-judgment into your office,
Right.
not realizing that it's brave to ask for help. Hey, doc, I'm a mess. Help me figure this out. Help me find myself again.
Hmm.
That's courage.
I think it probably comes from just the idea that you have the whole idea of being impervious and the alpha, or maybe the alpha or something like that. I'm the king of the kings, and of course I don't. But yet the king of the kings would have a lot of help, right? So, but like the idea, if I show any weakness that I need anything other than just I'm the dude, like somehow that shows you're weak, right? Oh, yeah. I mean, just the opposite. Every truly strong man, has tons of support, has deep support,
Yeah.
and you really think about it. So you could look at, you know, figures throughout history, whatever ones you like, I don't know what everybody likes, but usually people kind of like people like MLK and, people like Gandhi as the men that we could point to, or whatever ones you want, like it might look sometimes like some of those people are alone at times, some of the figures you look at, but not usually. They either they had a wife, they had a mom, they had a or they had a team, or they had something. They had support, they did lean on people at times. And that is something I actually do appreciate that's happening in society for guys right now, that it's becoming some people say, oh, guys are getting too soft. It's like, I don't know. Um, Maybe in a way I can hear what they're saying, right? I hear all the perspectives, but then again, men are way more likely, and I still think they're still not like, they're not open enough still, but in my opinion, but I feel like they're way more open to getting help now because things are changing, and the younger generations are more willing to be like, yeah, I need therapy or whatever. And so it's a great, I think it's a great thing. Huh?
Let me speak to this men are becoming too soft thing.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Let's unpack that a little, Daniel.
yeah.
So women are there's no longer just men or the provider financially, um, except in very exceptional cases. Most families, the woman has to have a job as well.
Mm-hmm.
And so, and most jobs, most of what women are doing, they have to access their masculine side. Men are accessing their feminine side because it's an evolutionary necessity. When you can't cry, your uncried tears turn into bullets and bombs.
Mm-hmm.
We're destroying the planet because our hearts are closed,
Mm-hmm.
because the over dominating masculine patriarchal energy is cut off from feelings.
Mm-hmm.
So it is an evolutionary necessity for men to become softer. At the
Mm-hmm.
same time, we don't have to shame or make ourselves wrong for our masculinity. We can actually celebrate that. And then there is this interesting bridge between the two of them.
Mm-hmm.
Because as I said before, masculinity grows stronger by expressing courage. And for a man to find his tears, for most men, it takes courage. So while he's developing that feminine energy, he's using his masculine energy to go there. It's a beautiful symbiotic relationship between left brain and right brain.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah. Oh yeah, totally. Totally. I love that you said it that way. It's kind of an evolutionary imperative for guys to start finding their softer side. I love that. I love that. Again, things I hadn't heard it quite that way before in those words, right? That's so true.
Another
Yeah,
aspect of that is just being able to listen without going into fixing the problem.
right. Right.
Mr. Fix-It is an archetype often
Mm-hmm.
discussed in the book.
Yes.
Mr. Fix-It is very handy, very appropriate in certain situations when there's actual problems to solve. But when you make your women's feelings or your own feelings into a problem that need to be solved, it's not helpful.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember recently there's something coming up with my wife Deb. She was uh upset about something, right? And then it's like, okay, I'm like, normally I'd be like, there's times that, normally I'd be like with what it was, I'd be like, but I'm doing what I can and blah 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 blah. And that's not helpful. That's not what's needed. So instead, what I said instead of just going to something like that, whatever permutations of it all, but to say, I'm feeling like I'm not sure how to support you. Please let me know how I can support you best.
Right.
And that worked perfectly. She told me exactly.
Yeah.
Well, I just want to know that you care. And of
Yeah.
course I care, but she's not feeling that, right? She's not feeling, she wasn't getting that from me in that instance, in that area. So I'm like, okay, all right, that's helpful. Now that was me being vulnerable that I didn't know how to help her. I don't know how to help with this. Oh, well, I just need you to show your care. That's all. Oh, I
Uh,
can do that. I
how
can
can
do
I,
that. Okay,
do you
great.
want listening? Do you want me to go into problem solving with you? Do you want me to ask you questions? How specifically can I show you that I care? Because the
Right.
feeling is there,
Mm-hmm.
but I need to speak your language of caring in this moment. I need to know how that looks like for you.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Right. Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, that's great. Yeah, to ask specific follow-up questions and see what emerges. And it's funny. Yeah, it's so interesting. If we would just be vulnerable enough to ask and say, I don't know, and help me out here. It's so easy, it is so easy, really. It's really liberating when you do it, but we're so used to kind of fighting. No, I'm good and I'm doing what I can, and don't tell me I'm doing it wrong. And that's not even maybe what they're trying to tell you. They're just saying, this is how I'm feeling. They don't know how to
Exactly.
maybe convey it, but you have to create the opening. Yeah. Mhm. Yeah. Well, that's totally true, the Mr. Fix-It stuff, right? Because that's often how I feel when things come up. Well, this or that's going on, and we need to, this needs to be addressed. Oh, and then same thing, like, wait a minute, I can't deal with that right now. I'm already busy trying to fix other things, and like, you know what I mean? Like some part of my being, I think, is I don't consciously think, oh, I'm fixing this, but I think, that fixer is in there. Like, I'm busy trying to save this or fix that or improve this or whatever. And now you're saying something else needs to be dealt with. Oh my God. Can't
My
you see?
to-do list is overwhelming as it is.
Right, exactly.
And
Like,
I'm listening with those ears of I have to fix this because
yeah.
I'm taking responsibility. I'm blaming myself. Whenever a woman or anybody's dissatisfied with me, often my first reaction is blaming myself and
Mhm.
then trying to project that guilt or,
Yeah.
let it go. But first reaction very often is self-blame, taking too much responsibility. And then the fixer comes in and it's not helpful. So I need to learn to take things less personally and let a woman vent without hearing the I'm bad, I'm wrong
Mm,
message that is internal and
mm. Yeah, I think
automatic.
for me, it's probably underneath. It's like when I'm triggered by it, it's like I'm thinking probably something like, you're saying I'm not good enough, and that really pisses me off. Like, yeah,
Hey,
yeah.
I say that to myself often enough, so I don't need you to reinforce that.
Right. Yeah, right. Yeah, probably, yeah, because I'm constantly thinking about how I could have, even when I do things well, sometimes my mind says, okay, but how could you do better?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I'm not enough or I'm not good enough is the core masculine wound for most men I've come across.
Mhm.
And it translates sometimes into I never have enough money, food, sex, addictions can stem from it. And what's hard for people to understand is that people who are greedy, who can never seem to have enough tall buildings with their name on top or whatever, power, fame, fortune, sex, are actually coming from a place of inadequacy, of I'm not enough. And it's like a void they can never fill, but they get some temporary relief each time they make another million or create some building or something. So it's hard to see, but it helps me find compassion
Mhm.
for these people to realize that greed is not that somebody's bad, it's that they're wounded.
Mhm.
This is their survival strategy for
Mhm.
staying on top of the shame that they feel.
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah, it definitely can be that. And I think, a lot of those type of people, we don't understand them either. We don't know what it's like to walk their path, right? And so we have different concepts about what we think they are, what they're up to, and some of those perceptions may have accuracy and some may not. We don't know. And I think that's where, we do well to be like, I don't know. I know it's stirring me up, these guys like this, but what's going on inside of me that's I'm getting all stirred up about it because not everybody is. And it's like, okay, what's going on in me? But yeah, there's definitely the conquest thing that we can see as becoming an issue, right? Like, we gotta keep winning, we gotta win no matter what. We gotta keep so yeah, it's got an allure to it, right? The male ego of, I want to win, I want to dominate, I want to be the best. yeah, it fleetingly feels good, but then I always say with anything that fleetingly feels good, I would say like, now do it forever. How do you feel about doing this forever? Oh
It's
yeah, I'm out.
exhausting.
Yeah.
In
Most
the
people,
book, I talk
most
about
people that
this.
come to that place if I ask if they want to do it forever. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a great question. In the book, I talk about this great transition that male egos make from what can I get out of life to how can I give my gifts?
Mm-hmm.
To put all the energy, passion, and focus of a male ego on service rather than acquiring is an awesome turnaround. And it's what the world needs.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Men
Yeah.
who are really protecting and serving with their
Mm-hmm.
masculine strength.
Yeah. Yeah, it's not an acquisition game in my lane anyway. It's about how many more lives can I touch and open up and serve and awaken, to the way I awaken people through their gifts and thriving in their businesses and all that. And um yeah, because they can, and because that's important. And um, yeah, helping people, myself and others to evolve past their own concepts, because we have a lot of them, a whole big pile of them. So anyway, yes, we're starting to wrap up a little bit here. This has been amazing. I'd love for people to learn more about your work and your book and everything. Can you tell them more? Can you tell them more about that?
Yeah, sure. And so I do private coaching sessions, either short term, one session for people in crisis who don't want to go, or longer term, building a relationship of trust. And I have 4 books, and the latest is called Mindful Masculinity, a book for men and the women who love them. It's only available on Amazon at this moment in time. So you have to Google Mindful Masculinity, Scott Grace. And there's about 44 reviews since it came out a few months ago. And I think 70% of them were written by women.
Yeah.
I'm not surprised. It's hard to
Yeah,
get
that's
a
what I found out, Scott. I found that out when I did a men's summit. I hosted one, and I found, yeah, 50% of people listening in at least were women. And I've heard that from other guys that are doing men's movement stuff, like with books and stuff. They're like, yeah, half the people coming to me are women. It's fascinating. It's like they're leading the way, they're leading the
Yes.
way to say, I want to learn more about this. I want to try to help
Yes.
the
They
guys.
have they have less programming
Yeah.
and less shame about looking within and being in a learning process, a lifetime of learning and growth.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So that's it. They can look up my name on Amazon. I have a wonderful YouTube channel. I do a lot of tapping. My old comedy is on my YouTube channel. Website scottsongs.com. scottsongs.com. Everybody remain calm.
Yes, I love that. So fantastic. There's a million more questions I have, but that's why we have more conversations, right?
So, a fun way to wrap up, people have been asking me to do this,
Yeah, yeah.
is to wrap up with a rap.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I just
So
saw
I'm
that.
going to
Yeah,
allow rhymes to come to me and maybe summarize some of the highlights of our time together. But
phenomenal.
just so that people really get that it's in the moment, why don't you give me the first sentence?
Wow, I'm on the spotlight, huh? All right. Um, okay. So men loving men.
Men loving men can be scary as hell. To actually care, to know that smell, the smell of pride that keeps you at a distance. It's time for men to receive assistance, to trust each other and hang tight together, because life is going to bring us fair and stormy weather. And there's going to be storms that somehow arise that you can't simply push down in disguise. You can't go at it alone all the time. Being alone is alone with your mind, and your mind isn't much fun. It doesn't love well. So to say to a man, I love you, can tell that you're on the leading edge. You're a pioneer. You're choosing to love instead of just fear. You're choosing the courage instead of retreat. And you're learning to think fast on your feet. Think in a way that your heart does the thinking. This is the way we can stop overthinking, to feel with our hearts and feel with our feelings. Many a man finds joy in revealing his vulnerability, filleting himself open. He can go from surviving and coping to thriving, to having rich connections in his life with his brothers, his friends, his partner, his wife. We don't need more, I'm going to get stronger and push down my feelings. We need that softer side to be revealing so that the whole planet, not just us, can be healing. The Amazon rainforest not cut down. Because a man find his grounding with feet on the ground. He says, I'm connected to earth. When I cut off a tree, I'm cutting off the lungs of the planet. That's not me. I don't need to go to war to feel my power. I can weed and garden and water a flower, protect and serve that feminine flower. With my masculine side, that's true power. So thank you, Daniel, for this glorious opportunity to put masculinity under the microscope and give it some loving scrutiny. I was wondering how I was going to rhyme that.
We got it.
I was very confused. But it's time for this poem to end. And what do you got to lose? Try this vulnerability stuff. Get some support.
Yeah.
And be in your whole brain. Don't sell yourself short. There's the left and it's valid. It's like your cell phone. It has many good uses, but not 24/7.
Right.
All right. This has been
Totally.
a taste of heaven. Thank you for having me, Daniel.
Thank you, Scott. It's been a pleasure to have you here today. That's so wonderful. Thank you so much. That was beautiful. The last piece too. Thank you.
All right, everybody. See you on YouTube.
Yep.
Thank you for listening in to Just Two Conscious Guys Talking, where our mission is to impact millions of men ultimately to deepen their awakening by examining their consciousness of what's been unfolding for them with male stereotypes and programming that has allowed them to have opportunities to evolve during these times. It's an exciting time to bring more love to men and women around the world, and we are grateful for you tuning in today. Feel free to share this episode and keep tuning in, and also look in the show notes for a link to get notifications of future episodes. Until the next time, everyone, goodbye for now.